the CADsoft software for many different usages in your business. We'll show you how you can create a model, and from that model we'll be able to derive all different types of information that you can use, rendering and animation files that you can send to a client for their review or for your website. We'll also show you how you can get a bill of materials from that same file so that you can understand all the different materials that are going to go into that building, saving you the time on quoting. And we'll also show you how to create working drawings from that file so you can get your elevation sections details and get your full permit as well. From that one file, we'll also show you it has capabilities of being able to import and export out into different file formats as well. So if you have to share your work with other design professionals, perhaps you do the whole house remodel, or you're a new home builder but you have someone else doing your kitchen designs, we'll show you how you can create the kitchen in the software, but also if you're using someone that's using 2020, how you can share that, or with your truss manufacturers or your floor joist manufacturers. We'll also show you how this same file can be exported out into many different formats. So this one file is going to be your hub of your business, and you'll be able to share it as a true BIM file. When you're using our software, what makes it easy to use and functional is the fact that we've put all of our different tools at the very top of the screen, so that you're building a wall or building a door, a window, an opening, a roof, stairs, columns, beams, and footings. Once you've created that building itself, then you can add in the additional information like interiors, adding in the cabinetry and the appliances and the furniture, electrical wiring diagrams, plumbing, HVAC, and general equipment. It also has landscaping options as well. So if you're doing an entire development, you can add in, even for just the one property, plants. There's 7,500 different plants in the catalog, fencing and deck materials. So if you get into building decks, you can do that, as well as irrigation and exterior lighting, and then just some general exterior accessories and furniture, so that you can portray that house that you're designing as a true home for someone. So when you're presenting it to them, they understand exactly what it's going to look like. We also have terrain capabilities as well. So if you're fortunate enough to be able to get the site survey information right from your surveyor, you can import the spot level points, so that when we're looking out in 3D, you can actually see the terrain and all the hills and valleys and slopes that are incorporated into that terrain. If you don't have the exact site information, I'll also show you how we can manually input hills and valleys and slopes so that we can emulate what the site is going to look like through our terrain tools as well. So to start off today, I'm going to start off under the Building tab, and I'm going to pick on the Wall tool. Anytime you choose any of the tools in our software, the same thing's going to happen for all of the tools. You pick the tool you want to use. The catalog panel that you can see to the right of the screen will update and show you the available options that you have for that particular tool. So there's all of the different walls. And then your cursor changes. My cursor right now looks like 3 interconnected walls, so I know I'm about to insert walls. When I pick on the Door tool, that catalog panel to the right updates with doors, and my cursor looks like a door. So it's always prompting you what you're doing, and the catalog's showing you what you can insert. So I'm going to select on Walls. Full catalog full of all different styles of walls are available, and each one of these are updatable as well. So if you're using a particular material or a different style, you can always choose that option and update any of these choices that you have here. So for today's example, I'll use let's use a vinyl siding wall, perhaps a cement board siding, and you can just choose any of those different products that you want to use. From there, you just move your cursor inside this drawing screen area. So think of this drawing screen area as your piece of paper. I'm simply left-clicking to show it where I want to start drawing. As I move my cursor, you'll notice that it's telling me just how long that wall is as I move my cursor. You'll also see at the bottom of the screen distance and direction. That allows me to type in exact distances. So if I'm working on a project and I know that first wall is going to be 18 feet, I can type in that distance. I don't have to move my cursor down there. Just at the bottom of the screen, just by typing 18 feet, it filled in the distance. And if I hit enter, it drew a wall exactly 18 feet long. Or I can, if I'm in sketch mode and coming up with a new design concept, I can just watch those on-screen dimensions and pull in the direction, and watching those dimensions know the length of them. So you have a lot of design flexibility. Type in exact dimensions, or point and click, or you can also line up walls with other walls that are already there. Watch as I pull my cursor down at this point. I'm going to hover my cursor over this corner right here because I want this wall to be exactly in line with it. A dashed line will show me that I'm perfectly in line, and then I can carry on with the design. And when I come back to my original start point, I can snap right to it, so it creates a full exterior shell of my building. Now that I have that shell of the building established, I can use any number of tools that I have here at the top. You can make your way across the screen, so you know you have your doors and your windows and go through, but there's nothing stopping you either from picking on a particular tool like the roof tool, looking over to the catalog panel, selecting the style of roof that you want. I'll choose an 812 hip, and then moving your cursor back into the drawing screen area. When you're using something like the roof tool, you move your cursor inside the home and you left click once. It will search out those exterior walls and it will create the roof geometry over top of those exterior walls. Once that's in there, you can do any kind of edits that you need to as well. So as an example, if I click on these walls right here, you'll notice that dimensions appear. They're telling you the length of the wall you've selected and how far it is away from the next perpendicular wall. So I get a room dimension here. So I can put my cursor over top of that dimension and say, well, I need this room to be exactly 18 feet, and I also want it to be 14 feet. And it will edit and change those accordingly for me. I can also take my cursor, left click, and stretch it into a new position. And when I do that, you'll notice that the roof updates. It intelligently has tagged itself to the walls, and as I move the walls around, it'll update the roof for me. If I put my cursor on top of the roof overhang, notice all those arrows that appear? Those arrows, there's one for each separate roof surface on this roof. They hold the pitch and plate height information. So right now, all of those arrows are saying, I'm an 812 hip. And they all have the same plate height. But if you want to have multiple pitches, multiple plate heights, or different styles of the roof incorporated into this one roof, you can select those arrows that you want to change, like the ones I'm selecting right now, and then look at their properties. By looking at their properties on those two sides that I selected, I can change the information about them. So I can say that instead of being an 812 hip, let's make these two sides simply a 612. And now that they are a 612, let's have an 18-inch overhang on them. So every side can be changed independently, so you can have multiple pitches, multiple plate heights happening, or just as I have done, selecting multiple sides at the same time as well. Up in the upper left-hand corner here where you see roof shape in this dialog box where my cursor's hovering around, if I click on that graphic of the hip, it opens up my other choices that I have for this particular side of the roof. So instead of being a hip on those two sides, I can make them a gable or a mansard or a Dutch hip. Custom allow me to have multiple slopes up that one side. So think of a great gambrel roof where you might go from a 212 to a 1212 back to an 812. That custom allow you to feed in all of those slopes all on one side. So you can have a really nice complex style of roof. You can also include arches into your roof style and a double slope. Double slopes are very handy for porch roofs where you might be coming off of an 812 and then dying into a 12 or a 212 over your front entrance or over a porch area. Or if you want to do kickouts on either side of a gable end, go from your 1212 right down to maybe a 412. The double slope will allow you to achieve that very quickly. So you simply pick the roof shape that you want to use and click OK. And now those two green sides that I had chosen become the gable ends with the extended overhangs that I'd selected. any kind of style that you want to incorporate with that can be done. Moving these walls and changing any of their information with those dimensions, simply picking them up and moving them to any area that you would like to have them, that can all be done just by clicking on those walls and making those edits. That all happens very seamlessly in the software. And the nice thing about the software as well, we quickly laid out that outline of our building, and that automatically is a 3D model. So at any time that you want to go out and review the model, all we have to do is come down here, down to the bottom, and tell it that we want to go out and see the model in a 3D perspective. That takes us out to a view of our model where we can go out and take a look at everything that we've selected and changed. And while we're looking at that 3D model and all of its information, we can make changes out here as well. There's nothing stopping us from selecting the walls and changing their materials to an alternative type of material that we might want to change. There's nothing stopping you from adding your windows and doors out here while you're working out in 3D as well. All of it can happen all at the same time, working on that 3D model right in front of a client, because clients have a hard time understanding what it's going to look like in a 2D plan. So when you can take them out here and take them for that virtual walkthrough, looking in and around that model, they begin to understand it. And now that they're out here in 3D, you can start designing with them. Click on that door tool. The catalog panel to the right will update. Select a style of door from the catalog. Left click and insert it. Grab windows. Again, we can have many sizes and shapes and styles of windows, as well as you can incorporate manufacturer-specific information. We have a website that has specific manufacturer styles, so you can incorporate maybe the manufacturer that you're using. If I right-click, it gives me opportunities to put these windows exactly where I want them, either centered on a wall or a set distance away from a corner, so I know exactly where they're going to be. If I want to make changes to any of those things that I've inserted, I can select the windows as an example, and I can say select all the windows that are the same. I want to review their properties and customize this window. Perhaps I want them to be a little taller, or if I put them down to perhaps, let's make them 5 foot exactly. Or if I didn't want them to have the grill pattern, I could say just 1 and 1 here and have clear glass. You can have side lights, highlights, all different shapes and sizes as well. So when you click OK, all the changes that you make are going to update and change. Once you take your client out here in 3D and make these edits, that all happens in 2D as well. So all of the doors and windows that I put in 3D now appear in 2D. If you feel more comfortable and you'd rather work exclusively in a 2D environment, the windows and doors, left click, can all be put in here as well. You have those same opportunities. I can say center this window on this, or this door on this wall, and it'll automatically find the center point, or I can tell it to be an exact distance away from a corner. Anything that you've inserted, it's simply left clicking to select that element. I'm just hitting delete on my keyboard, and I've gotten rid of it. We've toured around the outside, but you can certainly take your clients through a virtual tour on the inside. I'm going to slip a ceiling inside here and grab that 3D tool at the bottom again. This time I'm going to tell it I want to place a camera, and I want to stand at the front door and look inside. Now that I'm inside, as I go through, I can walk my clients through. I just slipped on a pair of feet, and now I'm walking through. Now we can start talking about interior components. When I'm on the inside, I could add in my cabinetry or furniture or fireplaces. Simply grab a unit, left click to show it where you want it to go. Grab the furniture and place it where you'd like that furniture to sit, and place all of those various elements. In this area right here, let's carve this area out here as a kitchen. For the kitchen itself, I can individually place the cabinets, grab cabinets from my catalog and place them in that area. Or we also have a kitchen designer. And in the kitchen designer, it allows me to choose the shape of the kitchen that I want to design, and I can deviate from that and have an extended leg or put an island in later, but this generally will fill it in with the cabinets for me quickly. And then I can show it the orientation of the appliances and the plumbing fixtures within that layout. And then from there I can choose my materials. The nice thing about the CADsoft software is that all of the finishes that you see, from the hardwood flooring to the paint colors to the cabinet finishes and the countertops, they're all JPEGs. So that gives you limitless possibilities of the finishes that you can show to a client. You can download specific manufacturer finishes. We have some on our website, or you can go up to manufacturer's website where they have pictures of their finishes, or even your own digital camera. Take pictures of the finishes that you want to show your clients, especially when you're in the remodel industry. If any of you are remodelers in our crowd today, you may have to take digital pictures of the finishes that are existing in a home. Show them what their hardwood flooring will look like when it transitions into the new materials that you're going to have in that new addition. So by having all of our finishes being simply JPEGs, it gives you that opportunity. So I'm going to outfit this particular kitchen with this dark cherry panel. And then from there, it will show me what it's going to look like. So I get that little visual, so I can visualize what that kitchen is going to look like. From there, I just show it where it resides in my model. So see this chalk line outline? I hope you can see that over the internet. I just chalk out on the floor in that area where I want those cabinets to start and stop. When I click yes, it'll outfit that kitchen with the selections that I made. Everything that I put in can be updated and changed. If you'd rather give your client a kind of a sketchy look and not have particular materials, down here at the bottom of the screen, this is where you can say, well, I want to see a wireframe view, more of an illustration view. And from there you can even work. So I can say I want to delete out these cabinets. All I'm doing is left-clicking on the cabinets and then hitting delete on my keyboard. From there, I can select the cabinets that I want to change and review their properties. Perhaps I want the leaf on this cabinet to be a glass front panel. Or instead of a glass front panel, maybe I just want it to be open shelving. And now that it's open shelving, perhaps I want it to have 3 shelves. This Appearance tab is where you can put in your finishes. This is where I tell it what the cabinet material is, the countertop material, drawer material, door, recesses. So if it's an alternative material, maybe in the recessed portions of the finish, handles, shelves, bases, all of the separate components that make up the shelf can have its own material. And again, these materials are simply JPEGs. When I click OK, those cabinets will be updated, and now they're open shelves. Or I can see that in our rendered view to show them the material finishes, so they get that nice look to it. From there, I can go back to our Building tab, grab a window size that I want to use. So maybe this time I'll use a fixed window that's 3 foot by 3 foot and place it over there. You can simply left-click. So if maybe I want a couple windows in there, if I do 3 foot by 3 foot and put 2 windows in there, you can see the effect that that's going to have. That'll bring in natural light when we do our renderings. But the software also has lighting. And when I drag a light into the space, so even this simple ceiling fan light fixture, it will illuminate. And I hope you can see that over the internet as well. As I move it around, you get the effects that lighting is going to have on the overall design. So from there, you can work on putting in some pot lights or under counter lighting, so you can truly show a client exactly what it's going to look like with the lighting incorporated as well, and take them on a virtual tour. While you're taking them on the virtual tour, what the software is doing in the background is also thinking about the structure behind it. So if I display the framing, it'll show me all of the wall framing and the roof framing and ceiling framing if I've specified it, in my design, and I'm going to put that into a rendered outline type of view. You have the opportunity to tell it exactly how you want to frame each wall. Do you want blocking halfway up the wall or not? Do you want a double top plate, single bottom plate? What's the size of the headers? There's tables behind all of it so that you can tell it that when you're framing a home, all of your exterior walls are always going to have a 2 by 10 header over all of the openings. Or you can tell it that up to a 8-foot opening, use 2 by 8s, and then up to your next span, maybe to 12 feet, use 12-inch boards. You can do that through the span table. Because it has all of that information behind it, it can also count all of those as well. It knows the cabinets it's put in, it knows the doors and windows and all the stud information, so I can generate a project estimate. All of that information can be put into different organizations, so I've organized it into the actual build. So here's my ground floor wall framing material, my ground floor ceiling material, the roof framing, the roof finishes. So as an example, I know for that particular model that I just drew, I'm going to need 63 bundles of shingles. And I'm going to need 23 pieces of drip edge that are 10 foot long. All of the products that you're drawing are intelligent. They know what they are. They know the products that they need to build out that wall, that roof, that ceiling. So they'll add them all into this material list so that you can quote it as you're drawing. So as you're drawing the project, it's automatically going to send in all that material for you as well. I'm going to put this plan back into 2D. And let's skip now down to our landscape tab. As I mentioned, there's 7,500 different plants. There's bedding materials and edging and fences. So if you want to get into the exterior finishes, you can do that too to portray the entire home. I'm going to zoom in on this back portion where we have these garden doors, and I'm going to put a deck out here. So I'm going to pick on our deck tool. Now that catalog panel updates and shows you decks. So learning our software is really picking the tool that you want, going over to the catalog panel to choose the elements that you want, and then left-clicking to show where it's going to reside in the actual model. So I'm going to choose a cedar deck here. And just like I was building out the walls, I left-click to show it where I want this deck to start and stop. So I'm just outlining the shape of the deck. You'll notice down at the bottom of the screen, we again have distance and direction. So if I wanted to come over a certain distance, maybe 10 feet, and then maybe come down 2 feet, and then go back over to line up with this original corner, I can do that. Right-click, tell it I'm finished, and it puts in a fully framed deck. The deck itself is intelligent too. When I started drawing the deck, I started putting my cursor inside this first wall. By doing that, I told it that I wanted to lag that deck right to the wall, right into the studs. So it put a ledger board right up against the house. If I had started drawing that deck to the outside of the walls, then it knew I would want an independent structure, and it would have put up a row of columns right up against the house for me. So depending on how you're building a deck, you can have the two different styles. And by double-clicking on this deck, it'll bring up its information behind that deck. So I can see all the materials that it's going to pull out and add to our estimate as well. The post materials and the footings, even how you frame that deck, because that ultimately is going to affect the materials that go into that deck. So you can show your framing construction style, beam flush, beam to post side, beam to post, however you're going to build that deck. The decking materials, the joist materials, the beam material, their spacing and overhang can all be altered. And you can even add accessories on top of that deck. So I'm going to put in a railing on top of that deck. Let's make it a cedar railing there, and it'll wrap itself around it. When I click OK, any changes that I made to that deck will appear on that deck. So let's take a look at that out in another 3D view, looking at the back side of the home. So while I'm out here looking at the outside of the house, I can add in deck stairs off of that deck. So I just put my cursor up against the deck that's already there and telling it that I want 5-foot deck stairs going down. When I left-click and attach this stair to the deck itself, it'll automatically cut the handrail and send it down the stairs for me. So it knows that they work together. It also knows that it works hand in hand with the terrain that's around it. Right now we have an absolute flat lot. But again, going to that terrain tab, I could import my spot level points from my surveyor, or I can use any of one of these different terrain tools to change the look and the appearance of the terrain. So something as simple as a slope at the back of the lot. I'm going to tell it that our lot slopes down 5 feet, click OK, from the back edge of our house down to this point here. It'll automatically slope down the terrain. I'll put it on the side here so you can see that slope occurring. And when it slopes down that terrain, you can see that it automatically knew to extend down those deck stairs and lengthen those posts in that position so that they go all the way down to that terrain. So the deck itself is intelligent and knows how to work with the different terrain levels. Now we have a house floating on that terrain. So let's take the opportunity to put a foundation underneath this house as well. So back under the Building tab, I'm going to go back to our designers and do a foundation builder. I'm building a foundation underneath our home. This same tool would allow me to build additional stories on top. The software can do 999 stories. So if you want to get into a very large project, you can certainly do so. I'm going to be putting a foundation underneath it, but this floor level above would allow me to specify second, third, fourth floors above the main floor that I designed. Once I tell it that I'm doing the foundation, it wants to know what type of foundation. We ship around the world in 4 different languages, and you can understand what might be customary in your local area. Even in the next state over, it might be something entirely different. You can do monolithic slab, slab on grade, full basement, stem wall and footing, and then depending on the option that you chose, down beneath that you specify the materials that you're going to be using. So whether you're pouring a concrete wall or you are using concrete block or pressure-treated foundation, any type of system that you want to use. And then you can specify the footing sizes that you're using as well. As I'm adding in those elements, it also can take into consideration that when I put in the footing, maybe I want rebar. Maybe I want rebar chairs then, or my concrete, I'm going to have sill plate on top of that, or my sill gasket, or anchor bolts. That can all be fed into these elements so that when I'm taking this off, it's counting those other elements that are related to it at the same time. When I hit finish, it'll automatically track around the house and put a perimeter basement wall, foundation wall, all the way around the exterior for me. So I'm just going to go all the way around and we can see how that's occurring. When you have that design completed and your client is happy with the design that you've done for them, you can analyze it again and do a project estimate. All of this information in this project estimate can be sent out simply to Excel. So if you wanted to further massage the data, you can do that right out in Excel, or you can even print it right out of here, out of your Envisioneer software. All of that information then, we can send that out to start creating our working drawings. We have automatic dimensioning tools, dimensions, auto exterior dimensions, can all be based on settings on how you tell it you want to dimension. Everyone dimensions differently. Some of you might like to dimension to the center line of your openings, and some of you might like to have it right to the rough opening on either side. Your extension lines, how do you like those displayed? Do you dimension to the exterior siding, or do you want to dimension to the stud line? Do you dimension to your interior walls on the exterior of your building? All these different options so that the finished product matches how you want to design. It's not dictating how the dimensions appear. You're telling it how you want them to appear. Then I come up in Tools, Dimensions, Auto Exterior. It'll follow the rules that I just did and put the dimensions all the way down. You can also cut sections through your model. I'm going to create a section right through my model looking in this direction. It automatically cut it. When we go to put this down onto our working drawing sheet, I'll also turn on the visibility of the framing so we can see the framing and how it's going to appear in this model. And I'll turn off the visibility of the furniture if I don't want it to appear in the actual section. So let's start putting these onto working drawing sheets so we can see how we can print those out and get our permits. Down at the bottom of the screen, we've been working exclusively in this model area that I have been hovering my cursor around right now. But you'll notice different tabs beside it. Those tabs represent individual pieces of paper where I can lay out views of my drawing. You can have as many pieces of paper down here as you want. I've simply laid out 4, but if you want to have, 12 is your normal in a set of drawings, 15, 20, you can have that many sheets of paper down at the bottom. On these pieces of paper, you simply tell it what you want to print out. So I'm creating a view of my model to put onto the sheet. I'm going to tell it that I want a 2D ground floor plan at a 1/4 inch scale. What I see over here to the right in this preview area is exactly what it's going to insert. So I can turn off the visibility of certain elements if I don't want to put them in as part of my plan. This eye down here in the bottom left of this dialog box, when I click on it, that's what gives me the ability to turn off the visibility of certain things. So I can turn off the entire visibility of my foundation, display none. On my ground floor, perhaps it's not important that there's a deck for this particular view. I can turn it off, or my ceiling outlines, or my floor outlines, or maybe I don't want to see the roof. Shutting the eye will turn off their visibility. So you can use that strategically when you're creating different types of floor plans or different types of drawings for your permit. I could turn off the visibility of absolutely everything but my floor framing, and then I have a floor joist layout plan. Or turn off everything but my electrical, and I can have my electrical plan. So this one dialog box allows you to create all different types of drawings very easily. Just turn off the eyes of things you don't want to see, click OK, and it updates. That green outline and my contour lines, by going back into that view filter, clicking on this Elements on Terrain tab at the top, I can turn those off too. All of my notes and my dimensions will appear in the notation. So if I wanted to turn those off, I can do that too. And then I simply hit Insert, and a copy of that floor plan attaches to my cursor, and it inserts onto my drawing sheet. I can insert as many different views on this one sheet of paper as I'd like to. So if I'd like to go back up there, define a smart view, and tell it to turn off absolutely everything except my roof. So I have a roof plan. And maybe I want to put that in at a reduced scale. Maybe I want to put it in at a 3/16. I can insert that onto that sheet. So I have a roof plan as well. Or elevation, sections, details. Let's open up another piece of paper. And I'm just clicking on the tab at the bottom to get another piece. Go back up, define another smart view. On this smart view, again, I'm going to tell it that we really don't need the terrain or the deck. Click OK. But this time I want to do an elevation view. And I get to see my elevation. The elevations are automatically generated, and they're intelligent too. If I click down here on this display mode, like we did when we were inside that kitchen and had that sketchy type of view, I can go to Hatch Pattern. And all of the materials that I've chosen have a pattern associated to them. So if I had chosen stucco or stone or brick, I would have a brick pattern. The concrete gives me one pattern. The asphalt shingles can have different patterns. For those of you that maybe coming from an AutoCAD background, all of our hatch patterns are pat files that you may have already created in AutoCAD, and you can incorporate them. But we have all of them here as well, so you can use all of our hatch patterns. Again, you tell it how you want to insert it and at what scale, and a copy of that elevation attaches itself to your cursor, and you left-click to insert it. So it's always coming up here to define Smart View, and then telling it exactly what you want to see. Perhaps beside my elevation, I want to give it a 3D view so my client can see what it looks like. So maybe this is more for a client representation, so I want to give them this type of view, that this is what it's going to look like in the back end, and give them this image view to insert onto the drawing sheet. so you can give them pictures too. Or I can go back in there, define a smart view, and perhaps it's something I want to show the carpenters on site, framing crew. I can go back to that 3D view from any angle, and I can tell it through my view filter that I want to turn off the visibility of everything, display nothing except everything on my foundation, display everything on my foundation, and on my ground floor, all I want to see is my wall framing. And unlock that, and my windows and my doors, and click OK, and turn off my terrain. And I get a view like this, so that they can see that wall framing. And from there, I can even put that into that hidden line view, so they can see it like this, and understand exactly how I'm going to frame out everything, and insert that onto that drawing sheet as well. Okay, I'll just put that up in this corner, and I can pick up this elevation and move it over. So any type of view that you want to create. I'm going to go to the next piece of paper. On that piece of paper, I'm going to tell it that I want to define a smart view, and this time it'll be my section view. And when it's my section view, I want to unlock all of these things that might have been locked before, all of my framing, and say display everything. But turn off my terrain. It's not important for this view. And then any framing that it might have cut through. If my floor joist had been spanning in the other direction, I'd see the ends of those joists. I can see my roof rafters, my blocking halfway up the wall, the top plates, the bottom plates in those walls. And then I can insert that onto my drawing sheet, picking a scale that I might want to use for it as well. It could be at any scale. It doesn't have to be one particular scale. And then insert it. From there, let's go back to that section view. And I'm going to take advantage of that view control again and say display nothing, absolutely nothing, except my cabinets and my appliances. And I want to see that window above that kitchen sink. Click OK, and it updates. And then I can zoom in, because remember, what you see is exactly what's going to insert. So this is all that's going to insert. And when I have this kitchen layout view, I can say, let's see that at a 1/2-inch scale. Insert that onto my drawing sheet. And now I have a cabinet layout view. So that one model can create all of that information from material lists to the 3D views. And then from there, just by defining a view of what you want to insert onto your drawing sheets, you can create your permit plans, cut sections, do details, floor plans, elevations. We also give you the ability to import in this area a PDF file. So if you have some specifications, some notes that you wanted to include, you can put those in too. We also import DWG and DXF files. So for those of you that are using AutoCAD and perhaps have done some details before, here's some details that are included with the software that are done originally in AutoCAD. So I can show you an example. So here's a block wall with foundation and footing detail. I'm going to tell it that I want that to be 1/2 inch equals a foot, insert it, and now I've got that detail originally drawn in AutoCAD as part of my design. If I want to change any of its information, I can select it, and then looking over where we had that catalog panel, it allows me to edit the definition of that block. So if I wanted to change the text, I can say this is just to shorten up that title, I can say that this is a footing detail with at footing, and click OK, and that shortens that up. Or I can take the lines, change the layer, the color, the line type, the line weight. So not only do we allow you to import DWG and DXF files, we also give you the opportunity to modify them as well. So you can take those and change them. Bring in pictures, import an image. That tool allows you to bring in JPEGs and bitmaps. So again, if this is a remodel situation, bring in a picture of that existing house and use that on your working drawings to show where you're making your changes as well. Or perhaps you're using this for a design board, and you can bring in JPEG pictures of the wallpaper or the paint color swatches, the carpet samples, and put those all out on these working drawing sheets as well. These can be your presentation drawings or your full set of working drawings, all from that one model that we were creating. As I was touring around this model and working around in 3D, I want you to start thinking about another area of your business. We've talked about working drawings, we've talked about estimates, we've talked about client visuals, but what about marketing materials? How do you market this home to your clients or to potential clients, maybe on your website? As you're making that animation file, as I'm walking around the exterior, or perhaps doing the walkthrough on the interior, or both, you can save that as an animation, an AVI file that you could upload to YouTube if you wanted to, or place it right onto your website. And as you're doing that walkthrough animation, you can even add sound. That could be your voiceover describing your company, the superior construction details that you put into a home, or it can simply be just some nice music. So that can be an excellent marketing piece for you so that you can send that off to a client, maybe a link through YouTube or on your website. We also do photorealistic rendering. So I can take this view on the screen. I can tell it where I am in the world, what time of day it is, and it'll start to cast down shades and shadows to make it look as real as a photograph. Because we're working over the internet today in GoToMeeting, it would tie up my system and your systems to do the rendering since we're broadcasting it. So I'm going to take you up to our website, www.cadsoft.com, and on our website we have a gallery. That gallery will show you samples of photorealistic renderings created in the software. So here's an exterior view looking almost dead on front view, and you can see the shades and shadows. They've told it where it is in the world, and it casts down those shades and shadows. Here's the exterior view from the back end of that same home. So this is the type of photorealism that you'll be able to achieve with the software. You can do night views as well, telling it what time of day it is, and it'll turn off the lighting, and you can, all the lights, because they have wattage associated to them, they'll start to illuminate as well and start to play on for that rendering for you too. All of that from that one simple model that you drew. You can derive all of that information. So it truly becomes the hub of the business. Because from here, then you can start to do exporting. So if you have to work with other design professionals, export it out to Warehouse or Javelin. The CSD iStruct is used for Georgia-Pacific and also Keymark products, MyTech Sapphire for your trusses, Boise BC Framer, Simpson Components, 2020 Kitchen Design. Export it all to those formats. So those people that you have to work with don't have to redraw that model again. Using an intelligent BIM model allows you to save time by not having to redo the work over and over again. If you're using 2020, once you've exported it and created the kitchen, you can also bring that right back in and see what that kitchen is going to look like in the entire home as well. One software, easy to use, one simple model with so much information behind it, truly is an intelligent model. What I'd like to do for the last few minutes of our time together is answer any specific questions that you might have about the software and how you see yourself using it in your business. I can help you with implementation plans or simple questions that you might have. The GoToMeeting console that you see on the right-hand side of your screen has a chat portion to it. You can type in questions, and I'll be able to read those out and answer them. Never be shy about your questions. I'm only the only one that can see them, so no one knows who's asking them. And chances are, if you have a question, someone else will have that same question as well. What I do for CADSoft is I head up all of their training and learning programs. So when you first get the software, how is the best way to learn it? I would suggest you go up to our Help pull-down menu and use our Quick Start Guide. A little tutorial basically maps out a simple bungalow like we did today to get your feet wet with the software. Understand how that wall, door, window tool works. Practical examples, step-by-step instructions. Also on our website, www.cadsoft.com, where I took you to see the gallery of renderings available, you'll also see up there that there's a Client Center. And in that Client Center, we have many different tutorials for you to review, videos put up on YouTube, different documents that you can read on all of the various subjects that you can find in our software. We also hold a class just like this one that we're doing today for you. We hold educational webinars every Tuesday at 2 o'clock, and they're free for all of our clients. So today, later on at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, I'll be doing a presentation on kitchen design, how you can lay out cabinets, how you can use the Kitchen Wizard, change materials. Next week, we'll be talking about roofs, presentations the next week. So every week, it's a little snippet of learning so you can learn as you grow with the software. We also tape all of those broadcasts. So if you missed the first few at the beginning, you can always look in the archive and watch the past presentations. Or if Tuesday at 2 o'clock doesn't work out for you, watch the presentation afterwards. So let's get to your questions right now and see which ones are up there. So I'm just going to our questions portion here, and I'll read out the questions that are posted. Can you change the wall's height? Yes, absolutely. If I take a wall as an example, let me actually put this back into 2D, and let me draw some interior walls to illustrate this. So I'm going to grab onto our wall tool, and I'll just grab a interior wall, wood framed, and let's say it's a 2x6 load-bearing wall right from this corner up. If I go back into our 3D view, now we see that wall right here. That's the wall that I'm hovered over that I just drew. If I double-click on that wall, it'll bring up the wall's properties. And part of the wall properties are the top and bottom tab where we deal with the height of the wall. The wall itself, when we first drew it, was 8 feet tall. But I can come in here and tell it that I want that wall to be any particular height. So I can say, let's make it a 4-foot knee wall. And you can see it drops it down to 4 feet. Double-clicking on it again, going back to the top and bottom tab, what if I want to slope that wall? The wall itself can have 2 different heights depending on the end of it. So I'm going to say at the red dot B point here, let's leave that at 8 foot. But at the front, let's make it a 4-foot wall. So then you can see, if I zoom around here and look at this wall, that it's sloped that wall. So it can have that height changed with it going from an 8-foot wall down to a 4-foot wall. Under that same idea, under that top and bottom tab, we can also step down a wall. Think of underside of a staircase. We can say going from 8 foot down to maybe, let's say, to 8 inches, and we're going up in 8-inch increments, break the wall down. And it'll break that wall down in steps as well. So you can certainly change the height of any wall to any shape that you need to, and it'll automatically change that for you. Great question. I'm going to look at the properties of that wall again and bring it right back up to our 8-foot tall wall. All right, next question. Is there a way to view the same information for the owner of the company? As I believe it would be very beneficial to the company, but of course would like to have the same information provided to him. I've taped today's class for us. So I'm going to be putting that up to YouTube. So if there's other people that you wanted in your company to be able to see the exact same presentation that we did today, I'll send you a link to that YouTube video after our presentation. I'll send that out to everyone. So if you need to share that with someone else in your company, they can certainly see that in the YouTube presentation. Okay. That seems to be the only 2 questions that we have today. But what I'll do is I'll hold the line for the next minute. So if you're thinking about asking a question, type it up and I'll be able to read it. Otherwise, after the presentation, what we'll do is we'll follow up with an email to you with a link to the YouTube copy of this presentation. It does take it a while to upload to YouTube, so it'll be later this afternoon that we do send out that email. Also in that email, we'll point out different areas of our website that you might find informative, like the gallery area, and we can send you specified information about that as well. So let me just check to see if there are any last-minute questions, and if not, we can end off our presentation. Oh, here we go. This software does have electrical renderings. How about plumbing information? Another good question. When we're in the views like this, we have obviously that kitchen sink that we put in. So when you're looking for perhaps stack drawings, so if you want to show the plumbing coming through, we have what we call our members and columns command. The nice thing about our members and columns command is that they can be any shape and any size that you need. So it could be an 8-inch wood column, it could be a steel column, it can be architectural columns, but it also, by adding an element in here, can be any size. So if I say it's circle hollow, and I give it the diameter that I need it to have, then it could be any size that I need it to be. And it can have any appearance. So this could be ABS pipe in this column, and it could be any height that I need it to be as well. So if I need it to be certain length, I can user defined and put in a length there, or I can play with that as I go. So if I give this a 4-foot height to begin with, and just give that maybe a 2-inch pipe, and I click OK, that can also be any color. So I mean, if we wanted to get specific and give that 3D structure here the appearance of black ABS piping, I can go through with my colors and change that to black and click OK. And now I've got ABS pipe, and then I can show where that's going to run. So I can put that piping right in that wall if I wanted to, and when I cut a section, it will show that pipe. It won't do any kind of elbows for you. It'll just show the straight runs. So I can have the same type of thing for duct work. For those of you that might be asking next about HVAC work, I would use our members command, and then I can do flex ducting, or I can just have our tin and doing the hollow shapes that I need in the materials I need, showing those runs. It'll do straight runs vertically, straight runs up and down, but it can't do any kind of corner connections that you might need or elbows. Another great question. Can you put in more than one footing height? Yes, what about step-down foundations? Well, what if that area to the back of our lot where we're stepping down here, what if we needed to step down that foundation? Well, if I look at the wall itself, it would be just like when we were altering the height of the wall. I can step down the bottom of the wall too and tell it that at our green dot out here at the edge of our property here, it's going to be going down to our full 8 feet, but I'm going to step that down even further, going down a further 4 feet, and tell it that the maximum step distance that I have according to my local building code might be 8 inches, might be 1 foot, 12 inches. So it will step down. If I turn off the terrain here, it will step down that wall, and then I would just remove the footing, and then I would place the footing back down onto it, strip footings attached to walls, select the wall that I want it to attach it to and the particular size that I need. So I can say that I want that 1 by 2 footer, put it back into 2D on my foundation, and select it, and see how it's automatically stepping it down as it goes. It intelligently sees that the wall above steps down, so it steps it down as well. So I can step down a wall, change the heights, and alter the footings too. Next question. Can I bring in soft plan drawings? If you had started working in soft plan and you're switching from soft plan to Envisioneer, the best way that you could bring those designs that you've already created into Envisioneer is by importing them through our import a CAD file. We can import DWG, DXF, SketchUp, and 3D Studio files. So however SoftPlan can, if they can save to any one of those formats, then you could bring it in. When you bring it in, it's not going to recognize their walls, but by tracing over top of it, pretending that it's just an overlay, you can convert it to hour walls so that you can give it the intelligence that the Envisioneer model does have. Okay, I'll again hold that line for any further questions that you might have, and then I'll be able to answer those for you. And again, following today's presentation, if you do have any questions about the software, you hang up the phone, the presentation's done, never hesitate to contact us. We have specialists here that will give you the best implementation plans for utilizing it for the specific needs that you have. Perhaps you need it for working drawings. Perhaps you're using it only for estimating purposes. Maybe you just want it for visuals. You can talk to them and they can tell you the best way to implement it and use the software in your business and get going as quickly as possible. And they'll include that information in the follow-up emails as well. So that does seem to answer all the questions that were posted. I hope you enjoyed today's presentation and you learned about CADsoft and our Envisioneer software line. Again, any further questions, never hesitate to contact us. They'll include that information, contact information in the email that they send you when I send that out with the YouTube link. Thanks again for joining me today, everyone. I hope to see you again in the upcoming learning webinars that we hold every week as a client of CADsoft. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day. Bye-bye.